So, quick question for each of you that raise your hand that you've been to a Meetup event. Just yell it out, please. What group have you been to, or what type of event have you been to? Name one. Running. What else? Yellow Bird Connect. Multiple users group. What else? SF Tech for Good. Sailing. Yes. What else? Spanish. Lots of. We have 10,000 language groups. What else? Say it again. Girl Gone International. I love it. What else? Women in Tech. What's that? Bronx Tech Meetup. Yes, I love it. Okay, so what you just noticed was the incredible diversity of all of these different areas. And one of the things that has always just struck me about Meetup, and you're going to hear more about it, is when you're going on a hiking event, that can be a great opportunity to build a career. And when you're doing a career type event and tech event, that could be an opportunity to meet someone on a personal level and find that adult friend. That overlap between the personal and professional is just something that has always struck me. So let's get started. Some of you know the story of Meetup's founding, and many of you do not. So I really just wanted to start with the story of our founding. 21 years and a few days ago, as we know, was 9/11. And 9/11 impacted so many of us community leaders in different and powerful, powerful ways. Well, our amazing founder, Scott Heiferman, was deeply, give it up for Scott, founder of Meetup, was in a state of shock, like so many people were in New York, in the US, all around the world. And he was in the lobby of his building, and everyone was kind of hanging around the lobby. No one wanted to be by themselves at that time. It was too painful to be by themselves. So he walked over to someone. He said, "What floor do you live on?" The person lived on the same floor and had been living there for 3 years, and they never met. He met another person who also lived on his floor. I guess he didn't hang out on his floor very often. He also never met. And he said to himself, it shouldn't take tragedy to build community. How can we build community outside of tragedy? And he decided to go back to his home, and as a serial entrepreneur, he, of course, had a giant white paper in his home. So tells you never know when ideas are going to strike. And he put this together on 9/11 of 2001. And it was the forming of Meetup today. Today, our numbers are pretty mind-blowing. 60 million members worldwide, 260,000 different communities. We listed about 15 different here. Close to over 100,000 different events every single week in 10,000 cities, over 190 countries. We're in every country but one. What country are we not in? North Korea is correct. Free book for you. So we are, however, in conversations maybe with Dennis Rodman, who apparently knows, the head over there, and we're all going to get certain haircuts, and maybe we'll get into North Korea there. Okay. So there is such a crazy diversity of Meetup groups from, let's see what we have here, Hyderabad trekking to Bold Betties to knitting around town. We actually have really interesting data. We could have told you that pickleball was going to be like the biggest thing that's hit, anyone who has a bum knee and is 40, 50 plus years old, because starting in 5 years ago, we started seeing hundreds, not thousands of pickleball groups starting up on Meetup. I wish I used it to invest, because back in 2015, all these blockchain and cryptocurrency groups kind of started up. So you have lots of different groups and lots of different areas, etc. And one of the things that makes Meetup for me so valuable on a personal level is a study that was done by a third party, University of Pennsylvania. It found the more Meetup events that you attend, the happier you are. The New York Times did a study and found that females, specifically over 50, that attend Meetup events, or forget Meetup, it could be any community event, and that doesn't have to be Meetup at all, live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And that's why we're all here as community leaders. We're all here because of the impact that we have on people's lives. So what we're going to do in the remaining 24 minutes is go through community strategies for why community helps people live longer, healthier, and happier lives. And I'll tell some stories, and I'll give some examples. But first, this is not your local rabbi, though it's a very rabbinical beard. Who is this? Call it out. It's David Letterman. And David Letterman is super famous for one segment of every single show that he had over how many years, 20 plus years that he was on there. What was a segment of his show that he always had? Call it out. Top 10 lists were on every single one of David Letterman's show. So we are going to go a top 10 list around community strategies. Are you ready? Yeah. Okay, so what I need you to do is please, number 10, we're going to do a drum roll. No tables, but let's go drum roll right now. Okay, awesome. And then maybe I'll show my underwear just like, just happened earlier. Just kidding. I will not do so. That will seriously, oh man, okay, no line stealing. That would not be good on Twitter. We do not want that. Meetup CEO shows underwear. Number 10 reason why community is so important and what you all do, and that's why we made this kind of a wrap-up session, is the loneliness epidemic that really exists in this world. 46% of people, 46%, not sometimes, not occasionally, but regularly feel lonely. 46%. And what's so terrifying is the difference in people's ages around feeling lonely on a regular basis. 62% of people who are Gen Zers regularly feel lonely. And what's even more terrifying is this is a forward-focused study in 2020, prior to the pandemic. It's gotten worse. But the people who are the most vulnerable, those people who are teenagers, late teens, early 20s, are feeling lonely the most often. And we all know loneliness is correlated with depression and anxiety and, God forbid, a million times kind of self-harm. So one of the things that we did, and I just want to encourage each of you to figure out how to do in all of your communities, is how do we embrace Gen Zers to a much greater extent than we have? What can we do within our group so it's not just 40-year-olds talking to other 40-year-olds and 30-year-olds talking to other 30-year-olds, but we're really embracing younger people. And what we said is we need to find, for us at Meetup, organizers who are organizing events who are college students. So right when the pandemic hit, we said, if you are a college or graduate school student, it is free to become an organizer. And what ended up happening is they invited hundreds of thousands of their friends that are also college students, and then all these different groups started up on different campuses. And I just really want to encourage you that ageism is like a real thing. It's a serious problem in that 40, 50, 60-year-olds look at people who are in their 20s in somewhat disparaging ways at times. And it's so unfortunate. People in their 20s do the same thing. A buddy of mine is part of a meetup group, a horror film meetup group, and one of the things he says is that there's people in their 80s and people who are in their 20s. And one of the beauties of community is getting people who are different from each other, right, to meet with each other and to learn that you're not actually as different as you think. Number 9, reason why community is so powerful is leadership that occurs through community. So I'm going to tell you the story of Omar Acosta. Omar Acosta was someone who lives in Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. Anyone here from Texas? You! Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas. And he used to love rock climbing. He started getting into video games. Nothing wrong with video games. Video games are great. They're actually a great way to build community as well. But he started playing to an hour a day, then 3 hours a day, 5 hours. He was playing video games basically 12 hours a day. And he wasn't leaving his house. And he's an extreme introvert. Omar Acosta's brother and parents started getting really nervous, and they dragged him to a rock climbing meetup group in Dallas-Fort Worth and said, please just try going back to what you did. I know you're scared. I know it's scary to meet people, but please. He went. He had a fine time. He went back a second time. By his fourth time coming back, the organizer of the group said, hey, I'm moving to another city. Omar, I want you to take over this group. And he's like, I have literally never led a single thing in my life. He said yes. The group has had over 900 events, 5 marriages. It's not a singles group, by the way. 5 marriages of people who met rock climbing ended up coming from this group. But that leadership, him stepping up to become a leader, would never have happened if not for the community that he was in. And there's so many examples, and it gives me such happiness, frankly, for people of color and for women, the ability to just rise up and be leaders of communities. Whether it's Alicia Allen, who went to her first book club event in Atlanta, Georgia, and it was all people who were white. The book happened to have been, the book was The Help, and they said to her, I think this book really exaggerates around what the real situation was. And she said, whoa, this is a my community. She went to another meetup group, and everyone ignored her. So she said, fuck that. You can use language I can too. I'm going to start up my own group. She started a book club group to become a leader in Atlanta, Georgia. There's now 20 different Mocha Girls Reads groups of black women who are all building relationships with each other and feel that ability to connect that they never would have. And it's because of Alyssa's ability to kind of step up and be a leader in community. Sarah Glakis, again, a female in finance, which there are obviously not even close to enough females in the world of finance, who said, I want to also step up and start a women's investing group because it's so unfortunate that oftentimes there's such an intimidation factor. How could I help people around that? So the second area of why community is so important is because it drives leadership. Finding a new job. Okay. So I was in Silicon Valley, very close to here, right before the pandemic, and I remember meeting with some organizers there. An organizer came over to me and said, I have to tell you this story, David. I'm like, great, I love stories. The story that he said was, I have 2 meetup groups. One meetup group is a bowling group, because I love bowling. Join a meetup group, start a meetup group. The other meetup group is a career networking group. So, because I love, I wanted to grow my career and get a job. And he's like, I have to tell you, you're not going to believe this, but I swear it's true. I just got my last 2 jobs from the bowling group. And I met my best friend at the career networking group. And to me, that's like the magic that occurs, the serendipity, right? The serendipity of what each of you here build creates these incredible opportunities that just change people's lives. And none of you realize how many lives you've actually changed. I swear to you, none of you realize how many lives you've actually changed. But by just creating the mechanisms to get people to come together is dramatically changing people's personal and professional lives in ways that you don't even know, but I guarantee you it's happening. Number 7, especially around the pandemic, mental health. And I'm going to show you a statistic around mental health around Meetup as well. But we have 5,000 plus different groups regarding social anxiety and introversion, and just so many of these groups, which unfortunately, the biggest area of growth for Meetup during the pandemic was actually our support groups. And I think it says something, right? It says kind of the pain that so many people went through and how community helped to get people through that pain. There's a person who is just an exceptional person. His name is David Good. He runs something called the International Friends Network. They've had a meetup event for 1,000 straight days. Every single day before the pandemic, and then when the pandemic hit, he had a meetup event every single night from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. And he said, I just don't want people to ever be alone. I want to make sure that there's a place that people can be and that someone is always there from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m. so no one ever has to feel alone and they could feel supported. And that mental health and the support for mental health is just a game changer for so many different people. Next is learning. Reason for why community is powerful. And I'm telling you this because you're community professionals and you're like, oh, I know this. But I want to remind you of all the different areas why community is so powerful. Everyone learns differently, right? Some people are auditory learners. Some people are visual learners. Some people can learn from a presentation. Some people can only learn by talking, by meeting with people, by discussing different opportunities. There are many people that can really only learn that way. So the person that I met, his name is Edward Zia. He's based in Sydney, Australia. Exceptional character. He was a homeless veteran. And he was terrified of going back to college. He couldn't learn in that environment. He decided he was going to get his entire education through community. All he did for an entire year was go to as many different free community events around tech and learn technology. And then he ended up doing that, getting his degree from community and learning, meeting his wife also through community and learning, and really changing his life. Learning is a big part of what we do. Okay, next. Community also has practical value in growing your business. Whether you're an SMB and you're a yoga instructor and you organize events in your yoga studio because that could help for lead gen and bringing people into your studio to hopefully sign up for a membership. Or you're the Flatiron School, which is one of the largest schools for training data science, whose CEO told me that the greatest source of students in the Flatiron School is actually Meetup events, which is pretty interesting. To Brian Armstrong, who's the CEO of Coinbase, who I saw a video about him talking. He said he couldn't figure out what business model he wanted to build. So the only way that he figured out his business model was just going from one event to a different event to a different event to a different event to figure out what strategy he should figure out, what pain point he needed to do. And then he ultimately found this billion-dollar unicorn business, Coinbase as well. Each of those are examples where people's businesses are either directly or indirectly growing through community. And obviously, it's a fine line, and you don't want to be overly promotional, but business growth is a very important part of community. Of course, finding one's life partner. And, there are many singles events. Raise your hand if you've ever been to a singles event. Okay, interesting. Not so many people. I think the most powerful singles events are actually where people can meet other people who share their passions. And it's not called a singles event. It's just people can meet other people who share their passion for volleyball, or their passion for horror films, their passion for romance novels, or whatever it is. That ability and way to find a life partner through community, in my mind, is one of the best ways because it's a low-pressure environment. And you could actually be, the ideal community is your authentic self. When people can be their true, authentic self, that's how people are able to give of themselves and be able to fall in love with someone else. Finding your life partner is a big part of community. And obviously, we have lots of online and in-person kind of dating events. But I would say that almost every single meetup that we have is actually an opportunity for finding one's life partner. And I really believe that. Okay, decision-making and making smart decisions. So the beauty of community, and also the pains of community, is how opinionated everyone is in a community, right? You want to make some policy change in community, and there's 20 opinions by 10 different people, right? About anything that you want to do within community. And there's lots of disagreement. Ultimately, that disagreement is so important in making a smarter decision. It's why, when you're able to have diversity, people's backgrounds, people are different. And oh, by the way, if you're a founder, trying to find someone who disagrees with you, trying to find someone where there's healthy tension. If you're a founder and you're the exact same as your partner, you're both salespeople, you're both engineers, you're both come from the same exact background, your ability to really grow your business is going to be hindered than if you complement each other and have complementary skills. So decision-making is incredibly important, and community drives better and smarter decisions. I'm so kind of obsessed with decision making that, and Bevy and CMX are so kind. What they decided is they're going to give away to only the people here to 30 copies of my book for free to anyone who right after this, I'm going to go into the tent, and Shalon, we'll bring the copies, and I'll be signing any books that anyone wants. And basically, the book is around decision making, how to make smarter decisions and different principles around decision making, with a very heavy emphasis on kind of community and community building and practices around that. So hopefully, if anyone wants a free copy, live it up. OK, number 2, community, last 2, drives accountability. One of my favorite experiences was when we were owned by WeWork. Actually, that was not one of my favorite experiences, because we were owned by WeWork, and they were just insane. I mean, crazy decision-making, to put it lightly. Like 2 different financials, one like the Adam Neumann financials, one the actual financial, like crazy stuff was happening there that you couldn't even put in like the movies or the books. Well, one of my experiences did happen in an actual WeWork building. And the experience was that I walked in and I saw 10 PhD students who met every single day. One person was getting a PhD in psychiatry. Another person was getting a PhD in biochemistry. And just one like, medieval history. It didn't matter. But they met every day to hold each other accountable. Community. Think about Alcoholics Anonymous, which is like the ultimate, I think, in many ways, community paradigm. The ability to have community hold each other accountable for doing the things that you maybe find hard to do, but for doing those things that you ultimately know that you need to do and that you want to be able to do. That's one of the powers of community as well, driving accountability, and especially when it comes to fitness. And knowing that there's going to be a group of people that you're going to go running with, because you mentioned running earlier, the group of people you're going to go hiking with, there's a group of people you're going to do somersaults with, whatever the heck the thing is that people will do together. It's so important in a community. Last but not least, definitely, is the power of community is friendships. And I'll share with you a little bit about this really nice story that just happened a month ago. So who here has ever heard of or is a fan of Florence and the Machine? Yeah! OK. I saw many women raise their hand, and some men also, I love that, also raise their hand. Yeah, baby. And they had a problem. Their problem was that they had many people who didn't know, they were huge fans of Florence and the Machine, but many people didn't know others that were also huge fans, and they didn't want to go to the concert by themselves. They needed to find a friend to be able to go with. So we had nothing to do with this. They ended up saying, well, let's just create 14 different meetup groups in the 14 different cities, and then we'll get people to find each other. And they now have hundreds of people who are going together to the concerts because they found each other and they have a community, and then they're going to be able to keep in touch with each other afterwards through the community. So it's like, how can we as different platforms help people to find real friendships that can actually solve the problems around friendships and loneliness like we talked about? In terms of friendships, another statistic, 25% of people don't even have not one trusted confidant to be able to go to in a time of need. 25%. Half of Americans, I know there's people from all around the world, so you have to excuse the more US-centric here, but I want to keep up the stereotype, so hopefully it's doing you a favor. Half of Americans report having 3 or fewer close friends. Because it's the #1 most searched term, just like was discussed on Meetup, one of the things that we've been doing is really leaning in to friendship to the greatest extent that we can. And I say this to you because I want you to learn from this data point. No matter what you're doing, you could be in tech. It doesn't matter. They are looking to find adult friends. You could be in any different area of community. finding ways that you could help people to find adult friends in any way, shape, or form is going to resonate, is going to cause more people to want to engage in your communities because it's a dire situation out there. People's, especially younger people, by the way, so much of their communities was their in-person work offices and their work communities. And they would go into the office, and we remember this, I remember this 20 years ago, and we would go out for drinks afterwards. I was single, right? We'd go out to restaurants afterwards, and we'd hang out afterwards, and we'd do things afterwards. Well, with so many different tech companies in particular, but non-tech companies too, but tech companies in particular, no longer coming to the office. New York's offices are like 40% right now what they were before, 40%. So many tech people not going to the office. There's this major gap, again, among especially younger people, but all people. And we need to find ways, every single person in this room, of what role you can play in helping people to connect. Because the alternative, I'm not saying bars are bad, but of going to a bar, let's say, by oneself, I think there's better things that we could do to help people drive friendships. I know there's better ways. And last thing I'm really going to say around friendships is the power in community of giving back. The vast majority of our organizers are not meetup organizers because they make money. You know, a friend of mine, she is a breast cancer survivor. And she said, I learned so much in that process of alternative treatments that I decided I'm going to devote my time, my charity. You know, charity is not just money, but it's also time. I'm going to devote my charity of my time to creating a meetup group to help people who are also going through it in the Houston area. And she's giving back. And when you give back, we all know what happens. You also get more than anything else. It's the most selfish thing that you can do is to be as unselfish as possible and to help as many people as you can. I deeply believe that. And through community, each of you are doing it. And the amazing part is how much it ultimately ends up giving back to you as well. Random acts of kindness and volunteer networks and all the other ways in which people give back. In fact, we've been awestruck by something recently. We just launched on Meetup the ability, working with a third party called Pledge, where any members can just donate money back to an organizer just to thank them. Just to thank them. Average donation is now $17. That's like a lot of money, 17 bucks. People have donated hundreds of dollars to one person, an individual, to organizers. And we're seeing, just a feeling that you're helping me so much. I want you to do something. Pay for a month of your Meetup membership, whatever the thing happens to be, just to give back. So I say this because I want to encourage everyone here to think about how can we each facilitate ways in which each of our communities and organizations can facilitate, again, giving back, because giving back, you're also getting tremendous amounts. So in terms of community strategies, the top 10 reasons why community strategies are so popular are, number 10, number 9, okay, number 8, I'm loving this, never done this before, number 7, woo, number 6, number 5, number 4, number 3, number 2, and number 1. So those are the reasons why each of what you do is so powerful. I am doing something right now which is a terrible, terrible thing. You know what I'm doing? I am standing, literally standing, in between each of you and drinking. And that is just like horrible. So, if you want to contact me, feel free to send me an email at david@meetup.com. I love LinkedIn. I love connecting with people on LinkedIn. Is there anyone here who I'm connected with on LinkedIn right now? Whoa, yeah! Woo! Okay, so feel free, if you're not connected to me, send me a LinkedIn invite. I will definitely accept. And if you feel free and you're interested, you want to get a free copy, make your way to the tent. It's going to be first come, first serve. And after that, you get some drinks. We'll hang out, have a good time, and enjoy the rest of CMX. Woo! Take care. Thank you.